So, a man walks into the Roman Senate holding a coin and tells 300 of the most powerful people alive that everything is fine. He's lying. He knows he's lying. They know he's lying. And the lie is going to run for 500 years. Here's the part that should bother you. The roads were real. So were the aqueducts. Roman law is so solid that lawyers in 2026 still quote it. None of that was fake. The economy holding it all up, that was fake. A genuine empire running on a financial trick, and the man at the rostrum has a name for the trick. This, he says, holding the coin up to the light, is a legitimate business. In modern terms, it's a Ponzi scheme. You pay your old investors with money from your new investors, and you keep the whole thing alive by finding more new investors forever. Rome found its new investors by conquering them, and for about 100 years, that worked beautifully, which is exactly the problem with a Ponzi scheme. The good years are the trap. They convince everybody the trick is just how the world works. So let's start with the man who built the machine and genuinely thought it would last. Augustus took power in 27 BCE, fresh off looting Egypt. We mean that literally. Cleopatra's treasury got loaded onto ships and sailed back to Rome. So much gold and silver arriving at once that interest rates in the city reportedly collapsed because there was suddenly too much money chasing too few things to buy. On that mountain of Egyptian metal, Augustus minted a beautiful coin, the denarius. Around 4 grams, 95 to 98% pure silver. A skilled worker earned one for a day's labor, and that coin was worth exactly what it claimed to be worth. You could trust it. That trust is the whole product. And Augustus, to his credit, understood the trust had to be protected. When he died, he left the Senate a remarkable document, a working balance sheet of the entire empire. How many soldiers were under arms? How much sat in the treasury? What debts were still owed? He handed his successors a real set of books and, in effect, one instruction: keep it honest. They were not going to keep it honest. But before we get to the part where they stop, you need the one thing Augustus quietly got wrong because everything downstream flows from it. His miracle economy had a single fuel source, and that source was Egypt. A one-time jackpot. He'd built a system that balanced perfectly, as long as someone kept finding another Egypt. And nobody around him stopped to ask the obvious question: what happens when we run out of Egypts? To see why running out is fatal, you have to understand how Roman money actually worked. This is the engine of the entire story, and it's a lot simpler than the textbooks make it sound, so stay with me for 90 seconds. Picture the whole empire as one gigantic household with one gigantic bill, and that bill is the army. At any given moment, somewhere between 70 and 80% of every coin Rome minted went straight to paying soldiers. Not to the roads, not the temples, and definitely not the emperor's wine cellar, however much he'd argue otherwise. Soldiers got the money. The army wasn't a line in the budget. The army was basically the entire budget wearing armor. Hold on to that, because the army is the customer in this story. It's the one customer Rome can never afford to disappoint, the one that never stops ordering and never goes home. And the moment its paycheck bounces, it stops protecting you and starts shopping for a new emperor. Now, when the bills came due and the treasury was running thin, an emperor had 3 ways out. He could raise taxes, which had a nasty habit of starting revolts. He could go conquer somebody rich, which required there to actually be somebody rich within marching distance. Or he could do the quiet thing. Take the silver coin, melt it down, stir in a little cheap copper, and stamp out extra coins from the same lump of real silver. The face on top stays the same, the name stays the same, the number stays the same. There's just a little less actual metal hidden inside each one. 10 coins where yesterday there were 9, and not one citizen the wiser. That move is called debasement, and it is the secret heartbeat of this entire video, so really sit with what it does. Debasement is a tax that nobody votes for, and nobody can see. The emperor pays his bills with the extra coins he conjured out of thin air. Meanwhile, the citizen holding the old coins slowly notices his money buys less bread than it did last year, and a little less the year after that. He never receives a tax bill. He just gets quietly poorer while the prices drift upward. It's a tax wearing the costume of a coin, and for a very long time, almost nobody realizes they're the ones paying it. So that's the machine in full. A bottomless bill called the army, fed by conquest, with that hidden silver tax wired in as the backup generator. Under Augustus, it all ran clean, because Egypt's loot kept the silver genuinely silver. Now watch what happens to a later emperor who needs cash in a hurry, with no fresh Egypt anywhere on the map. Fast forward about 50 years. The emperor is now Nero, and the city is on fire. In 64 CE, the Great Fire burns 10 of Rome's 14 districts to the ground. Nero rebuilds the city, which is genuinely decent of him. He also rebuilds his own house, the Domus Aurea, the Golden House, complete with a rotating dining room, a 120-foot golden statue of himself out front, and pipes in the ceilings that misted dinner guests with perfume. The man was not what you'd call restrained, and none of it came cheap. So Nero reaches for the quiet lever. He nudges the silver in the denarius down from 98% to about 93%. It's the first real debasement in 250 years. A small, deniable, almost invisible little crime. 5%. Who's going to weigh their pocket change? We know just how small it felt because of how one witness wrote it down. Pliny the Elder mentions the change, and he mentions it the way you'd mention a minor delay on your commute. Flat, bored, one dry line of bookkeeping. A senator-class Roman watched his own emperor secretly shave the national currency, and found it roughly as alarming as a cloudy afternoon. That little shrug from Pliny tells you everything about how normal this was already becoming. And over in the Senate, an official holds up Nero's slightly lighter coin and assures the room the currency is perfectly sound. Same confident speech, thinner coin. Not one raised eyebrow anywhere in the building. "The coins are fine," he says. The coins are not fine. But they're still 93% fine, and 93% is exactly the kind of number a man can stand up and lie about without his voice cracking. Here's the trap Augustus never spotted, though. That little silver tax was only ever meant to be the backup generator. The main engine, the thing actually keeping the books balanced, is still conquest. And conquest is where Rome's luck was about to physically run out of map.
Welcome to the Conquest Treadmill. This is the whole game, so let me lay it out one piece at a time. The army has to be paid, always. To pay it without robbing your own citizens, you go conquer someone new, which hands you their gold, their land, and a fresh crop of taxpayers. That haul covers your soldiers, and it lets you raise more soldiers who will then need more conquests to pay for them. Conquest funds the army. The army powers more conquest. So when you picture Rome marching outward across the map, understand it isn't marching for glory. It's marching because it literally cannot afford to stand still. In Ponzi terms, every new conquest is a new investor. fresh money strolling through the door to cover the promises already made to everyone inside. And for a full century after Augustus, those investors kept showing up right on schedule. Britain, then Mauritania, and then the enormous one, Dacia. Trajan's Dacian wars dragged home something like 165 tons of gold and 330 tons of silver. With it, Trajan paid for a forum, a victory column, a bridge across the Danube, and 4 straight months of public games. From the outside, the machine looked utterly unstoppable. Underneath, it had just burned through the single biggest jackpot anyone was ever going to find again. Because by 117 CE, Trajan had stretched Rome to the largest it would ever get, Scotland down to the Persian Gulf. And then he died. And the next man on the throne did something almost no Roman had ever chosen to do. He stopped. Hadrian looked at the empire he'd inherited and at the treadmill screaming along underneath it, and he stepped off. Almost at once, he handed back the freshly conquered eastern provinces. And way up in the cold north of Britain, he built a wall, 80 Roman miles of stone, and declared in effect that this right here was the edge of the world, no further. We are finished expanding. That wall is the part everybody remembers, the postcard of Roman power. But the postcard is the magician's other hand, the one you're meant to watch so you don't notice the trick. Because here's what the wall is actually confessing. Hadrian didn't build it to keep the barbarians out. He built it because there was nothing left out there worth the cost of taking it. And a wall is what you put up when you finally decided to stop. And the instant that sentence becomes true, the entire machine is quietly broken, even though on the surface, nothing has broken at all. The treadmill that funded everything has run flat into the edge of the track. Rome has run out of new provinces, which is the same thing as running out of new investors. That one engine that kept the whole scheme honest has finally stalled out, and now there's only the quiet lever left to pull. The silver, the hidden tax, the coin you stand up and lie about in the Senate. Now, if you've ever played one of those strategy games and caught yourself invading one more country purely to pay for the army you raised to invade the last one, congratulations, you've personally run the Roman economy. Same exact treadmill, just older sandals. So here's where episode 1 leaves you standing. It's roughly the year 130. The roads still run clean to the horizon. The legions still hold every line. And yes, in the Senate, an official still rises to swear the coin in his palm is a perfectly legitimate business. And going by the honest numbers, he's very nearly telling the truth. The silver in that coin is still around 75% pure. Nothing has collapsed. Nothing even looks wrong. But that coin has 350 years left to fall. 75% silver, sliding toward a number so small you'll be convinced the screen made a typo. The wall is up. The investors are gone for good. And the only thing this empire has left to sell is the lie itself. So next time, we find out exactly how long you can keep selling a lie before the man at the rostrum opens his mouth and simply can't get the sentence out. Anyway, see you next time.